landing. How we looking in the control room? Got it. Nice. Yeah, I'm recording as well. Last week we were both fumbling a little bit on that. Yep. I didn't start mine until the message during the 9 last week. Oh. I didn't have walk-in slides rolling. It's just on black. Our live stream is going. Everything's looking good. Addie, I've got a signal from you. I don't know what's going on with Matt's radio, but every time he talks, it is mad static.
Yeah, I can hear it through the comm. That's weird.
It's because I've got my mic on and I've got the radio right next to my shoulder.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. Static though when he talks is so bad.
Yeah, are the radios getting tired?
He might need to get a new
It could even be in his handset.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, but then I couldn't talk while he was because it was too much.
All right, 20 seconds to the pre. We're about to get it. We're going to the
10
10,
seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6. Watch this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
Good
Fours
morning,
live.
Port City Church. We are so glad that you are gathering with us this morning online. If we haven't met before, I'm Molly.
Hey, Molly.
Hey.
What's up? We haven't met before. I'm Dudley. We are, like Molly said, we're so grateful that you guys are with us this morning, wherever you're watching from. We know that this is an important time for us to come together, and we are really grateful that you guys are choosing to be with us online today. So no matter when you're watching this Sunday morning, throughout the week, we are really glad that you're here.
Yeah, we are. I had the opportunity on Christmas Eve to be here in person, but then watch online as we traveled.
Yes.
And it was so cool to experience what you guys are experiencing now, but also experience this in person, which was just really sweet, and just love how our church connects with our online community, which has been so awesome.
For sure. Yeah, and it's really cool that Molly got to serve in a massive capacity that morning.
Yeah.
See everything here in person, and just get to experience what you guys get to experience every week.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful for that. I know it's a big part of what we do here at the church, and so we want to do whatever we can to come alongside you in your walk with God. There's a lot going on with the new year bustling up. We had a volunteer kickoff party this past Thursday for the Welcome and Connect team, just to get excited for 2024. Molly's, your team has a party today.
Yeah, our team is doing our big volunteer party today, which we're excited about after all of the Christmas crazies.
Right.
So that was good.
Christmas
Last
crazies.
week, we gathered for the first time in the new year, and it was
Great.
bumping.
How many kids did we get to walk with?
We had over 500 kids between
Come on.
our birth through
That's
pre-K
awesome.
and elementary ministries.
That's awesome.
So that was so
good.
exciting.
Yeah.
We're expectant for that to continue.
Yes.
So that's been awesome.
Yeah.
If you are interested in kind of serving with us, we'd love to talk about how you can, just get plugged into the life and the community of the church here in person.
Yeah, so the best way to do that is Port City 101. So if you've been watching for a little while, you probably hear us talk about that a lot. If this is your first time watching and you're able to come in person, Port City 101 is for you. And it'll take place next Sunday, so it takes place most of the time every third Sunday of the month. So next Sunday, January 21st, we'll meet at 10:45. You'll get to meet some staff, some really great volunteers from different ministry areas. You get to go on like a backstage tour. So as the Sunday gathering is going on and grows on, taking place for our birth through pre-K and then kindergarten through 5th grader in Treasure Island, you sort of get to see everything happen.
Stage so that
And it's just a great place to be able to come,
people were
learn more about the
seeing
church.
what was going on in
But
the
really, the
building a
most
little
important
more.
thing is it's that where we come alongside you in your walk with God. So
We might try
wherever
to
you're
get
at
off
in
the
that
hallways
walk,
some more stuff
we're able to step
soon.
right alongside you and then help you figure out if there's any steps you can take. And if you do choose to volunteer for Grow Zone, or if you want to volunteer, that's awesome. But it's also
That
great
sounded
because you get
clean
to
that time.
learn about so many different parts of the church that you might not know about, and you get to learn about what we do in the city. So not only what we do here at the church, super important, right?
Yeah.
But also we want to make sure that we're coming alongside our city and helping them in ways that we're not just
2
focused on the
minutes.
church. So yeah, there's several things that you can learn about in 101. And if you want to do that, you can fill out the online connect card at portcity.church/online. It'll be on the screen. Yep. Thank you,
Yes,
production
look at
team. You guys
that.
are sick. Sick. Awesome.
Yes.
But yes, that's the best way to do it.
And
By
what
you
I
guys,
love
he
about that
means
is we've been doing this
Nick, the only one
who's
Port
in
City 101 for a
broadcast.
few years. I've seen so many familiar
Yeah,
faces participate in our Port City 101, and I really do think it's just a way to learn
Yes.
more about the
Yeah.
church that you don't see just
Right.
coming in on Sunday and sitting in the gathering. There's so much happening, like Dudley
So
said,
much.
backstage, behind
Yeah.
the scenes, around the church, in
Yeah.
the community, throughout
Yeah.
the week.
Yeah.
And to just hear about that and learn about that, even if you've been participating
Yes.
in the church
Yeah.
for a long time,
Yes,
to
it's the
just
best.
see and learn about what's
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
is really, really cool, and just
Yes.
helps you to, I think, just love our church and
Yes.
That
feel
active
even more
listening by
connected
Doug.
to that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then from there, I think
Nuts.
it helps
Yes.
you, what are my next steps?
Yes.
How do I,
That's good.
how do I
Yes.
become
That's what I'm
Because
going to produce
I
today.
think
Every
what we
time
hear a
Terry's like,
lot,
and ready
and I'm
one,
sure you
go
hear
one.
this every
Yes.
day,
Yes.
the church is
Yes,
so big,
Terry.
like how do you make it feel small?
Yeah.
And there's so many great ways to
Yes,
do that, and so
for
we
sure.
want to help you figure out what
Yes.
your best way to
That's
do that
good.
is. Yeah.
Molly, she's going to get my job. She keeps it up. That was good.
Thanks.
But yeah, when you were talking, I was thinking a lot of times even if you've been coming or watching online for a long time, you're like, I know all about Port City. We have our own staff.
Yeah,
and
we don't know.
Stuff is constantly changing, and that's good. Like we
That's
want to
awesome.
30
adapt
seconds.
to the culture
Yeah.
around us.
And just so you
to
know,
create
as a producer,
culture,
I was like, where's the
in
band?
Wilmington,
So I completely
as it is
forgot
in
about
heaven. I
that.
know Vigilant Hope says that all the
Yeah.
time, but that's really what we want to do. And so that's constantly
20
changing because
seconds.
people change, and the church is changing. So yeah, if you want to learn more, if you want to get connected or more involved, 101 is your
Yeah,
way.
portcity.church/online.
Yeah, what a great slash.
10, 9,
Slash. But
8,
we are really grateful that
7,
you're with us. We
6,
pray that Jesus meets you
5,
right where you are this morning,
4,
church, and that you get
3,
exactly what you need today.
2,
We're going to toss it to Laura
1.
Lynn.
Go for Laura Lynn.
You're clear, Addie.
Good morning.
31.
I was a little late. I had to run up here. Well, good morning and welcome. And because it's my first Sunday in the new year, I'm going to say Happy New Year.
Show her name.
Thank you. I received that. It's 2024. In my mind, just so you know, if you ever ask me the date, I'm probably going to think that it's, I don't know why, in my head, it's always the year 2000.
Jarret, is your pterodactyl?
Y2K really left an imprint on me, and so I have lost the last 24 years. And so it's the year 2000,
Takes it
but
like
it's
30
really
seconds
not.
to connect,
And so
so
it's 2024, January
we'll give it a
14th,
minute
2 weeks
here.
in. It's good to see y'all. I'm glad you're
Should
here
be
this
on.
morning. A couple things as we gather, as we start, we wanted to just make you aware of. The first being that today is the last day for
Katie,
registration
will you give me a shot just
for
inside the
Central
screens?
Kid Camp if you want the free swag. I'm going to break it down. So we do an overnight camp. It's going to be July 17th through the 25th this summer. It's overnight for the current 3rd through 5th graders. And they get to go away and to stay with their friends and with their counselors and small group leaders and all that good stuff and have a whole week of just fun and things you wouldn't normally do at home. And they get to learn about God, and they get to do this in the context of a place where
Can you hear, Addie?
it's new
If you
things,
can hear us,
but
nod
it's
your
with
camera.
familiar people, with their friends
Oh, okay, cool.
from church. We would love your kids to
Yeah,
be a
there
part
you
of
go.
that.
I kinda like
and so,
having
although you
Laurel
can
in
register
the
through the end of
foreground there.
February, today is the last day that you can register and get the free swag. And who doesn't want free swag? I don't know. So you can do that at our portcity.church/life page. If you have a current 3rd through 5th grader, that's how you can do that. We'd love to have them join us. The other thing I wanted to let you know about is that as we head into the new year, this is sort of a reminder maybe for a lot of us that we have all kinds of groups here at Port City. We desire that we can provide a welcoming place for you to build community around the person of Jesus. And if you've been here
we've
for a
got
while,
you.
you know that I'm a big fan of community. That's part of my role here. But for reasons deeper than just that it's my job, I do believe that we're meant to walk together. I do believe
I
that
was
we're
about to
meant
say
to
the
do
exact
this
same thing.
in circles, around tables,
Little
with
more,
other people. And by
just a
this, I
touch.
mean
Yeah, right there.
walking in the way of Jesus. Learning how to become like Jesus, learning how to live in this world
Yeah,
in the
little
way of Jesus. And so if you would like to be a part of a group, we have so many different types of groups.
However,
and they're all
if she
laid
doesn't
out
mention them pretty
for
soon,
you
and
on
it
our
doesn't
life
sound
page
like
at
she's gonna.
She's not going to.
portcity.church/life.
Okay.
It was
And
supposed
we
to be
have
a
some
Central
new
Kid, but
groups
she didn't
kicking
do
up
it.
in the
okay.
next couple weeks that meet on Sundays. And
So,
some
Addie, we're not
during
gonna
the
use
week. And we would love to have you join us for that. So we'll also have some folks in the Connect Center at the end of the gathering that you can talk with to get some more information. But I just wanted to kind of put that before you and let
probably
you
gonna
know
turn pretty quick in the
that
meet and greet
we have
outdoors.
groups and we want you to be a part of them.
Is
So,
Dudley waiting for her to finish to come out?
Okay, as we get started,
I guess so.
I would love for us to
that'd be
just
awesome.
get to know who we're sitting with, who we're sitting around, who we're sitting in front of.
I'm going to
maybe
come to 3
behind.
briefly while we're
And
waiting for him to get
again,
in his place.
if you've been here for a while,
He's
you
there.
know
Okay,
that
he's
I
there.
do
Never
have an
mind.
affection for
Strike
awkward
that.
things.
I'm going to go straight to 4.
And I'd love to just correct that. I guess I don't have an affection. I should clarify that. I do have an appreciation
All right,
for
I am gonna
awkward
come to
things
3,
because
though.
it pushes us to get to
Right
where we
now.
actually
Ready,
want
3.
to be. So I always need a push to go out of my comfort
Take
zone,
3.
and so I'm going to extend that to you.
And Katie,
I'm
hang
going
in
to give you
there
2 minutes this
because
morning.
Terry
Would you
might
just
take
stand
you
up,
as
maybe
well
stand
right
in a
now.
circle so it's not one-on-one, but
Ready,
meet the people
4
around
on.
you. Introduce yourself, ask how long they've been at Port City, and ask them if they're in a group. That'd be great. And then we'll come in and we'll worship.
All right, go.
4 is live.
Hey, church. Like Laura said, we've got a lot of groups that are starting up because it's January. And you're probably thinking, I'm watching online, and I'm watching online for a reason. So if you're watching online for a reason and you can't come in person, we do have 2 groups just for you. They're virtual. There's a men's group and a women's group. The leaders of those groups are amazing. They're super intentional with the online crowd.
Terry,
They
will you
meet on
kill your
Zoom,
mics just for a
and
second?
It's really just a
There's
great
a noise
space
in the
for you to
comm.
be able
I'm
to
trying
pop
to see
in
where it's coming from.
and pop out on Zoom
All right, it's still there.
weekly,
You can
once a
turn your mic
week,
back on.
men's and women's. But if you're watching online and you can come and you can be in person, then some
Wanna
other
send
groups
a
are
grow
for
zone
you.
number?
Starting Point is starting up
I know it's probably not a
next
great time to
2
throw it up there,
Sundays from
but
now. It's a great place for you to learn more about
just wanted
Jesus.
to
If
send
you're
it on
wondering
up. She's
what
typing
is
it in right
Jesus,
now.
what is he like, what is God, and then it's a great place to start. But yes, check out the portcity.church/online. You can fill out that form, and somebody from our team will follow up with you this week to get you connected or
She
answer any
sent the
questions
grow
that you
zone
might have,
number.
okay?
Again, don't know
But
if
until
now's
we
the
start
right
the
time, but just
gathering,
thought-
worship's going to start in a minute. Grab your coffee, grab a journal, grab your Bible, but we're going to jump right into it in a minute.
All right, you're clear 4. So, Rollin, was Dudley supposed to use the life link that time?
Just online.
Oh, just
Yeah,
online.
everything's there.
even. Oh, okay, okay. I
Yeah.
thought he was going to come back to the life link again.
Nah, just online.
Okay. I knew during the pre he was just going to do online.
Yeah, we're sticking with that one for today, just for everything
Okay.
with online specific.
Okay.
Seconds left. 33.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Got one in preview. 31.
Yeah, good morning. We're excited to spend some time worshiping together. Last week, Mike touched on a scripture where Paul talks about every one of the promises of the Father being a yes in Jesus, and we, as Christ followers, get to say amen to that. So we're going to sing about some of those promises, about his faithfulness, about his nearness. So I hope that we can sing with grateful hearts, praising him and thanking him that he is with us, that he's faithful. So we invite you to join us as we worship together.
Dissolve 4. 36. Dissolve 6.
God of Abraham, you're the
31.
God of
Dissolve
covenant
1.
and faithful promises.
33.
Time and time again, where you have proven
35.
you'll do just what you said.
Dissolve 5.
Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Oh, great
33.
is your faithfulness to me.
Dissolve 6.
Didn't say this, but Brooks is on lead guitar.
Is your faithfulness
Dissolve
to
1.
me. From the rising sun to the setting
33.
same, I will praise your
32.
name.
Dissolve 2.
Oh, great is
4.
your faithfulness
Dissolve
to
4.
me.
36. 5.
So we remember that he's true to his word. Oh God, from age to age, though the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Your history can prove, yeah, there's nothing you can't do. Oh, you're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Oh, great is your faithfulness to me. Oh, great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name and sing. Great is your faithfulness to me, oh Lord. You're so great. My faith in you.
Oh, I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. Oh, I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let
Is Madison not playing that part?
I put my faith in
can't see him in any of the shots.
36.
It's Brooks. It's Brooks. He's got it.
Olivia is going to talk here.
Ready, one. Dissolve one.
We're going to continue to sing truths. That Christ is our firm place. He's our foundation. And he's worthy. So we're going to worship back to him. Christ is my firm foundation.
Dissolve 5. Ready, 6.
The rock on which
Brooks
I
is on lead here too.
stand when everything around me is shaking.
Ready, 4.
I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. 'Cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations.
Dissolve 3.
So why would he fail now? He won't.
Six.
That's the truth we sing.
Oh, let's do 1. Ready, 1.
He won't.
4.
You sing, church. I've still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going under.
3. 3.
I'm not held by my own strength.
2.
Did we get the Grozon number in again?
On Jesus.
4. Take 4.
He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season.
Ready, 3.
So why would he fail now?
5.
He won't. No, no,
Ready, 4.
he won't.
Ready, 1.
He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. Oh no. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation. The rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never
5. Dissolve 5. Ready through 1. Dissolve 1.
And rain came and blew, but
4. Dissolve 4.
you sing this
3.
truth.
Dissolve 3.
And I'm safe with you alone.
Dissolve 1.
I'm gonna make it. Yeah, to him you sing church.
Ready 2.
The rain came and blew, but what?
Ready 3. Ready 4.
Oh, yes, it was.
1. Ready 4.
And I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Yeah.
5.
Rain came and blew. My house was built on you.
Take 2. Ready 3.
And I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Yes, I am. I'm gonna make it because of you. 'Cause I'm standing strong on you. I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause my house is built on you. Christ is my firm foundation. The rock on which I stand. When everything around me is shaking, I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. 'Cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. No, he won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't.
4. Dissolve. Dissolve 4.
He won't.
Ready 3. Dissolve 3.
He won't fail.
5.
He won't fail. I know he won't
4.
fail.
Dissolve 4.
I am more than
Ready
able.
3. Dissolve 3.
Lee and Maddie leading, Madison on lead guitar.
Ready 1. Oh, can we get the keys? 4. Dissolve 4. Ready 1. Dissolve 1.
When did I start to forget all of the great things you
Ready
did?
3.
When
Dissolve 3.
did I throw away faith for the
6.
impossible?
Dissolve 6. Ready 4. Dissolve 4.
How did I start
1.
to believe
Dissolve 1.
you
Ready
weren't
6.
sufficient for
Let's do
me?
5. Ready 5. Dissolve 5.
Why do I talk
Ready 3.
myself out of
Dissolve 3.
seeing miracles?
Start taking. Ready 1. Take 1.
You are more
Ready,
than able.
Take 4.
Come on, church, we sing this together. Declare
3.
this.
Ready 6.
You are more
Take 6.
than
Ready 5.
able.
Take 5. Ready 1. Take 1. Ready 4.
You are more than
4. Ready 3.
able.
Take 3.
When I don't
Ready 6.
see it. You are
6.
more than able.
Take 2.
Who am I
4.
to deny what the Lord can do?
Ready 3. Take 3.
member Lee's going to talk here.
Come on, we celebrate that. We believe that together, church. I just want to encourage you from Scripture, from John 11. Or maybe you know the story of Lazarus, where Jesus comes on the scene to a town called Bethany, and he heals and he raises Lazarus from the dead. There's healing power over death in the name of Jesus. And that's a beautiful thing that we can trust in and we can believe for in our own life. But if you go back just a little bit before that, when Jesus comes into town, Mary and Martha are weeping and they're grieving the loss of Lazarus, and they see Jesus and they both say, if you had just been here a couple days earlier, this wouldn't have happened. You have the power to heal, but you weren't here.
Dissolve 1.
And Jesus still does a miracle. They had this beautiful faith that they knew that Jesus could heal Lazarus.
I'll take some more online.
But they thought that it was too late.
I want them to be able to see his face.
And he still showed up. So I don't know what it is for you. It could be the faith of a spouse, the faith of a child, the faith of a family member. It could be a work situation. Something that you're walking through with your family that seems impossible. And you might say, Jesus, if you had just shown up here, you could have fixed it.
Take 5.
But he's still walking towards you. Don't lose faith that he is still with you and present.
Chris,
and he may just need to hold your hand and walk you through it.
Get off of you, but I think Madison is
that might be the miracle that he shows up to be with you, that you would encounter him in a new way.
Ready, 3.
So can we sing this chorus one more time, just believing with our heart
Take 3.
that Jesus is for us and that he's not done with us
5, you're
yet.
clear.
You are more than
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Dissolve 4.
able. Come on,
Chorus
church,
live
I wanna hear you
everywhere.
sing it.
Ready 3. Let's do 6. Ready 6.
You are
Dissolve
more
6.
than able.
Ready 3. Dissolve 3.
You are more than
Ready 1.
able.
Dissolve 1. Ready 5.
You
Dissolve 5.
are more than able. Who am I to deny what the
Dissolve
Lord
1.
can do?
Ready 4. Dissolve 4.
I'll pray here.
Ready 6. Dissolve 6.
Yeah, Jesus, you're still working. You're working in this place even now.
Ready 1. Dissolve 1.
Lord, would you give us the faith of Mary and Martha to know that you can do the impossible?
Okay, 3 in preview. There she is. Billy's got her.
And then would you give us even more faith to know that it's not over yet? That you're working in our waiting. You're sanctifying us.
Ready, 5 online.
And Lord, that even when
Dissolve
we don't
5.
see what's going on, Lord, that you have a plan and a purpose. And your promises, as we sang, are yes and amen. So would you teach us to trust you?
Coming back to 1. Dissolve 1. 5's clear. 1's everywhere.
Would you change our hearts to reflect who you are? Jesus, we love you. We worship you.
Ready 2.
You are worthy of our praise in our life. Amen. Thank you guys for worshiping with us. You can have a seat.
Dissolve 2.
Man, I love, love, love that song. In 2023, I had a lot of personal transition, and this song was actually on repeat for me. And just even that phrase, you are more than able. Who am I to deny what
Bailey,
the
I
Lord
think you can
do?
get your
I would
autofocus.
sit in my car. I have very distinct memories of sitting in my car with that song really probably too loud, and just thinking, okay, I'm not sure what's next. I'm very nervous about what's next. I can't look back. I can only look
she's not
forward,
really
but I
moving.
don't know where I'm going.
I'd rather stay on the tight
you
shot.
are more than able.
Unless she does start
do
pacing around.
Anything I can even dream of. Because you're good, and you're God, and you're all powerful.
Jarret, will you pull out
You're
a little bit
all-knowing.
so we can see
You're
people in the
sovereign.
room in front of you?
You see me.
Come on out just a little more.
You know me. You love me.
There we go.
and
Ready,
you have
6?
promised that you will be faithful.
Take 6.
Then I need to look back and remember.
Oh, that was a dissolve.
When has God been faithful? And when I see that, that gives me faith to say, you are more than able to do it again.
Ready, 3.
God is good.
Go ahead and start your move, Katie.
You know, it took me doing the year-end retreats to look back on 23 and to see that a huge piece of my story in all of those transitions, in all seriousness, was my small group. I'm in a small group with 6 other people, and they rallied around me in a way that I have never experienced before. Like, gets me emotional because it's not because we had some super in-depth Bible study. I'll be honest with you.
Stand by 5.
We struggled in that region. But they were consistent. We were consistent in gathering. We were consistent in pursuing one another. We were consistent in asking some of the hard questions, in seeing one another, in celebrating with each other, in grieving with one another.
Going back to 1 again. I'm going to wait for her to look back this way one more time
asking
before
God
I
for
take
things together, and really seeing God's faithfulness together. We are a group of people who are working to orient our lives,
right, 1's live everywhere.
our marriages, our
5 is clear.
families around Jesus, around the way of Jesus. And we're doing that together. And it has been so powerful for me. And I really think that's part of the Lord's equipping for my role here. But
as soon as she
I stand before you as one who's in the thick
that
of
we're
it,
going to be
saying,
that we're offering groups, we'll
everyone here has that. I hope you're a part of a group. I hope that you are extending yourself and receiving from other people. And I want to acknowledge that that is hard. We all have a different life circumstance and situation. We all have different hurts and burdens that we carry, most of which have probably been inflicted on us by other people. We all have hopes and dreams and desires and obligations and responsibilities and a capacity. But we get to do this together. And that is our design, and that is our hope for you. And we want to be a part of that with you. We want to help make that possible. So in the new year, we don't talk about resolutions here. We talk about my one word. What's your lens for how you're going to look at what God does this year? We also talk about how faith is trust that's able to take a step. So my challenge for you is,
let's go ahead and show it.
What is your next step of trust to help you grow in your faith? Could it be going deeper with the group you're part of? Could it be stepping into a group? Could it be offering to lead a group? I don't know what it looks like, but we would love to be a part of that. I would love to challenge you with that. And I would love to hear how you see God's faithfulness through that. It's my challenge for you today. We are going to take some time to just continue worship through giving.
She never even told them what they could do.
We're grateful to be together.
Perfect.
We'll
take some time to do that, and then Mike will come out and lead us.
Is there any way to not do the full minute of giving? No.
Sorry? Is what?
There's no way to not do the full minute of giving, is there? It's not a big deal. We're here now.
We can take the keyer out, can't we?
We could pull the keyer, but
it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Everybody doesn't know we're going to do it. So.
Yeah, as long as Leland, I was just thinking about them. Oh, lead light. Roll and bump after this.
You probably leave the keyer in because you got the bump here.
Yeah, I was trying to get it to go to black. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was trying to get a nice definitive black cut there. Now let's get 3 in preview. Dissolve.
Good morning. It is great to be together as we really start today.
And just go to black on the.
Kind of looking at some of the most troubling things that Jesus said. How's that for a new year? We're starting a series and it's called "You've Heard It Said." Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Sermon on the Mount. Anybody heard of the Sermon on the Mount? You've heard of it? I read as I was kind of studying for this, a commentary of a religious
CG2
scholar
is clear
quipped. He said the
online.
Sermon on the Mount is the thing that Christians have spent most of Christian history trying to figure out how to get out from underneath. Because it's one of the most, it's some of the most powerful teaching of Jesus, some of the most familiar statements of Jesus, but also some of the most difficult for us to understand, but even more so difficult for us to apply, to figure out if we do these things, how in the world is this going to work out? And this really leads us to what we think about when it comes to our lives and the way our lives are supposed to work. And the question I want to begin with by asking you is, can y'all see that? Not very good. Purple is out. What do you trust? Really? Like, what is it that you trust? What is the foundation that you depend upon, rest upon for your security, for your, hey, this is how I can plan or predict or move forward? What is the thing that's underneath it all? And this is really important because what Jesus is going to be addressing here is a lot different than what we think that it is. And so if you have your Bibles, we're going to look in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. Not all today, but over the next few weeks.
Take one.
But I would recommend that you sit down and read this from start to finish. It takes about 11 minutes, I think is what I timed myself doing it in. I'm a pretty slow reader. It's 3 chapters, 5, 6, and 7. And there's actually a book that I read years ago called The Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard. It is about, it's got to be 500 pages.
I don't think I'm going to be able to
It took me 2.5
show
years to read. It is on the Sermon on the
title
Mount.
slide for the message.
It is spectacular. It is difficult. It is all of those things.
Well,
So I'm going to take
it's
and
either
try to
too
sum that
bright
up
in the
in a few
background,
weeks and
or
just
when the
inflict
board is
that
over there,
on
he
all
wrote
of
right
us,
in that space that would come in over the
together.
top
But
of
this
his
is
writing.
arguably the largest
on 6.
collection
Yeah, I
of
could probably
Jesus'
go
teachings.
to the either 3 or
in the Bible.
maybe
It's
6.
just if your Bible has red letters, it's just 3 chapters of red letters. And it's a collection
Jarret, will you
where
move
like
with
this
him
is
just a
delivered
little
multiple
bit
times. Here
when
it's
he
delivered
walks
to a particular group of
your
people.
right,
It's
if you'll
recorded
just
again
pan a
in
little
Luke,
bit.
and it's
You don't have to
slightly
keep him
different.
centered, but give him just a
But
little
this
more
collection
space.
has a lot of his famous sayings. Again, the golden rule is in here. You know the golden rule, right? Do unto others, you'd have them do unto you. The Lord's
That's
Prayer
true.
is
Yeah.
smack in the middle of
I could get it
this
in on 5.
Sermon on the Mount. You've probably heard the statement, even if you're not really a believer, you've heard something about turning the other cheek. You've probably heard that. That's in here.
Ready,
You've heard about the
5.
second
He's gonna
mile.
turn the other way
There are
as soon
whole
as I take it. I'm gonna
corporations
wait.
that built their brands
6.
on going the second mile. Well, this is one of the teachings of
Take
Jesus
6.
found in
1 and 6 are both
in the
live.
Sermon on the Mount. And it also contains in here these famous "you have heard it said" statements, which is where Jesus says, "You've heard it said, thou shalt not kill.
Take 2.
But I say to you, if you even get angry with
2
someone,"
and 6 are both live.
right? "You've heard it said, do not commit adultery. But I say to you, if
Ready,
you
5.
harbor, hold lust in your heart." You've
Take
heard
5.
it said, thou shalt, and he goes on and he basically
Hopefully
says,
he's
here's
not
the
gonna go
commands
over
you've
his head.
heard, and here's
There we
what I say to you. And what I think this does, this sets a huge tension
That works.
for all of us by challenging what it is that we have heard and what we have long thought. And then he adds
Ready,
something
3.
else
Ready, 1.
instead.
There you go.
And this gives
I'm not
us
on you. You can take a
tension
shot.
Okay, ready, 1.
for us today to
Take 1.
challenge what is it you
5,
have
you're still
long thought.
online. Ready, 3.
Right, I talk to people,
Take
especially who've
3.
walked with the Lord, been in churches. The thing you've
1
heard
and
it
3
said
are now
something,
live.
but Jesus is perhaps saying something different. And what this is going to come down to is our willingness to trust him. Our willingness to trust what he says and then define and discover ways to let this be fleshed out in our lives as a kind of people. What you'll
Jarret, can I
find in
see?
this
Let me get off 3.
message,
Ready,
in
1.
this Sermon on the
Take
Mount,
1.
not this message here,
Jarret, can I
hopefully
see
you'll
what
get
your
it there,
shot
but the
looks
Sermon on
like
the
if we
Mount,
bring the aperture down?
is that
just a
Jesus
touch?
is driving us to
I think the
understand
black's not
something
deep enough.
about
Other
ourselves
way.
and the kind of people that we actually
Yeah,
are.
that's not it. Because now
And this
mine's
is
too dark. You can come back
absolutely
up a touch.
essential for us,
maybe
for
we need to
anybody
dig
really, but
in
particularly for
to the
those of
color
us who
profile of
are
that camera and
pursuing
try to
some
bring the black
things in the
levels
world
down
that are
some.
redemptive and that are
Chris
hopeful.
might be a little too
It's to
dark.
consider the kind of people that we actually
Yeah, Chris,
are,
can I see
and
what yours
not
looks like
just
if you
what we
come up a
say
touch?
Yeah.
and what we do or even what we think.
That matches.
I talk to people, a lot of people all
Yeah,
the time who
that's
say
good.
they believe certain
good right
things,
there.
but what they do and how they act is just
Good
very,
call, Terry.
very at odds with those things. And all of us have places like this in our
Ready,
lives where
5.
we've heard it
Take
said, but
5.
Jesus says to us, We're like, well, I'm not
One
really
and
sure
five
it's
are
going to
live?
work out too well.
It did make the
So
total.
this is
pop
part
nicely, though.
of what it is. So I want to begin.
Well,
really
the
what
blacks
this
still
is,
look good.
when it comes to
but
us,
Mike
is
looks
these
better.
words are going to be deeply challenging, I think, to what you have heard and to what you already think. And they're going to challenge
Ready,
what you
6.
depend upon to control
Take 6.
and to predict and to hold and to make. They're going to challenge those things. But the invitation is for us to trust that somehow what he says will do something in us and for
Come
us.
back
And so
to
I want to
one,
begin
take one.
this
live everywhere
topic, or
now.
this series, with the end of the sermon from Jesus. And this is in Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 24. And Jesus has gone through this whole thing. He begins it
On the left.
with, you've probably heard the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they'll inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And a lot of us think that, we hear like, blessed are you who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And we think like it's like a locker room talk. Are you hungry enough to give your... He's talking to people who are oppressed and marginalized and poor. These are people who know what it is to hunger. Hunger isn't about like the will to win. Hunger is, do I have enough to survive? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they'll receive mercy. Blessed are those who are pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for my name's sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is how it begins. And here's how, then it goes through all this list of things: murder, adultery, salt and light, and love your enemies, all the things. Then Matthew chapter 7, verse 24, here's how he closes this out. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rains came down, and the storms rose, and the wind blew, and beat against the house, and yet it did not fall. And it did not fall, why? Because it had its foundation on the rock. So what you immediately see here is the person who hears his words and puts them into practice. Notice what he doesn't say. Those who hears these words and just executes on them. Those who hear these words and puts them into practice. This isn't something you can just execute on. It's something you have to enter into. Those who hear these words and put them into practice, you will have a foundation, right, that isn't threatened by the storms coming. Verse 26, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the storms rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, the crowds were amazed. Their minds were blown at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority, not like the other teachers of the law. There was something different about him. So here's what I want to ask you. If we hear all these things in these next 3 weeks, what's the promise that Jesus gives us if we hear these words and we put them into practice? What's the promise? The promise is that you will have a foundation that can withstand the storms and the weight of our lives. That's the promise. There's a sufficient foundation that can support your life in the midst of this chaotic world. A lot of us think and assume that if we just come to faith or have enough faith, our lives will be storm-free. And that's not the case. One of the things that's happened in our culture, in our world, especially as this sort of just crept back into all of us, is that we recognize more and more readily and more frequently that the world is broken, and our hope that it will be different soon is sort of waning. Would you sense that? So what most of us resolve to do is just to then to pull in and take care of our own sort of tribe or our own little world. And what we've got to learn how to do is to recognize that the world is broken and it's not likely to get better, but that's not where our hope is.
I didn't take it.
The foundation that we need is one that can withstand the chaos of the world. And he says if we learn how to hear his words and put them into practice, this is where the foundation, the promise in this is stability. Stability. I want to take a few moments and say a few words about this, because when I sat down years ago, I was trying to figure out, what does spiritual maturity look like? I was like in my 20s. Because I heard people talking about spiritual maturity, being mature in your faith.
Live. I'm coming to 2
What
now.
I always thought it was people who could quote from Obadiah.
When he's
right?
about to turn away again.
I was doing my quiet time in Leviticus the other day. You're like, woo, right? And you immediately think, because it's somehow we can use these things that people, that make us seem smart or
Terry,
seem
I'm
enlightened
on
or
feed.
seem
I'm going to come in there and look at
wise
the
or
transition
deep or whatever it
times
is.
on the slides again.
In fact, there's a whole.
But if you have to
I don't
show
time
one,
to
it
get into
should
that,
show
but
online as well.
people pursue trivia, and they mistake it for a depth of faith. And people do this all the time.
Take one.
Like there's a depth to what is happening in you, and it happens not because you know more about the Bible. It happens because you understand and see God's work in your life and in the world around you, and that of course gets revealed through the Scriptures. But it's more than that. And so there's this idea, when I sat down and looked at this, what is it? And there was 3 words right down, and we've kind of developed this, but stability, gratitude, and generosity. These 3 things mark maturity. If you want to know if you're maturing, you just look at these 3 things. Are you more stable? Are you more likely to fly off the handle, lose your mind every time something doesn't work out, every time the election doesn't go like you think it should go, or every time this doesn't happen, do you lose your mind? It's not a function of God's right, it's a function of maturity. Can you handle the wind and the rain? You have a foundation that can handle it. Gratitude. Gratitude is just the sense that we are receivers, right? That the more we learn in everything, give thanks, for this is the will of God. That's in our Bibles. And then generosity is this idea that we no longer are afraid, or so afraid that we have to hold on, but rather we are free to give. And so stability is sort of the first marker. I remember, because this is important for all of us, because it's interesting. You remember, like, have you ever seen a toddler throw a fit? It's amazing. They fold themselves in half, put their head on the floor, and just lose their mind, right? And it can be like, because you're just not getting their bottle fast enough, or you're not getting dinner fast enough. And it's like it's like, hold up, right? This is going to take 3 minutes. And you're trying to reason with them, and there's just no reasoning with them. Why? Because they're toddlers, they're immature. If you're 17 or 18, you still fold in half, put your head on the floor, and lose your mind, right? There's a problem. It's a disproportionate response. At some point, we learn that everything doesn't warrant losing our minds over. There's a stability to us. That comes from maturity. I know in our culture, like we do not value this at all. Everything is sold to us. You can't tell if it's nuclear war or if there's a sale on cars, right? It's all like, you gotta come get this now. And like everybody's losing their minds over everything. There's a way for us. There's a way for us to live that doesn't require us. That's a foundation for us. Stability. So we have to find stability for us. And here's the thing. Every human being, it doesn't matter what you believe, but every human being, you need a foundation that can support the weight of your hope and your desire and your longings and your emotions. And whatever that is has to be able to hold all those things. And this is exactly what Jesus offers to us. He says to us, if you hear these things and you put them into practice, you're going to find a foundation that will support the weight of the life that you long to live. That's the promise in this. And we have to find stability is like this. Stability is finding peace and security in all circumstances because I trust Christ. That's a really important phrase and idea here. Hearing his words isn't just doing what he said, but rather what he is actually saying is he's inviting us to trust him, and something has to happen in us. You have heard it said, right? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Right? This is the cry of almost all of us when we don't know how things are going to be, or we don't know how to do our jobs. Some of you, this is how you lead your employees. You just tell them what to do and they execute on your commands. Some of you parent like this. You just tell them what to do and they execute on your commands. At some point, though, they're going to have to become a kind of person for whom these things actually emerge out of them, and they don't just take commands from you. When as an organization here, this is one of our values at Port City Community Church is the value of discovery. It's because there are things about who we are, about what God is doing, that if I just told you, hey, do this, You're going to think you're doing, but you're never going to discover and understand. This is exactly
All right,
Jesus'
Katie,
point
go ahead and
when he
get
says,
ready
you've
for
heard
a
it said,
shot.
do not commit murder. So you think you're doing good because you
Y'all,
didn't kill the
breakfast
person.
smells so good up
You're like,
here.
"Wow, didn't
Don't
kill
you
him."
go to one and
Like that's some high bar of human investment. He's like, no, if you have
Yeah.
contempt for
Yeah,
him,
Katie, why don't you pull out all the
if
way?
you say
One.
raka,
one shot
right? That's
here.
the Hebrew word comes from the word of it's the noise of spitting. Like you're so disgusted with someone that you just.
Come on out as
If you
far
even
as
do
it'll
if you
go.
do that,
I
you've
think
done
you have a
far
little
worse
room. There
because
you
you're
go.
not becoming
All
the kind
right,
of person.
ready?
He's
3
dealing with
online.
something inside of us.
Take 3.
Right? We've got to so this has to involve us. He can't just say, don't kill. Okay, I didn't kill. You've all had this with your kids, and there's
Ready,
tons
5.
of ways this happen, right? Where we give
Take
rules
5.
and commands, and they obey the rules and the commands,
All
and
right,
they
3
miss
is
the
clear.
point.
Katie, you can push back in.
And human
just
beings
inside the
are
screens.
geniuses at this. It's why there's 613 commands
You wanna go
in the
with 2
law,
since he's
and some of
kinda
them say
moving around
something
quite
like
a bit.
this. And this is in the Bible.
Take 2.
Do not put a stumbling block in front of a
I'll
blind
jump back to
person.
2 right after you came off 3.
What was happening that you had to tell someone
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do
I get-
that?
Yeah. I was
I'm like, are
thinking
you
the same.
7th grade? Like, what are we
Close so it
doing
can
here?
Count so it doesn't
Yep.
jump too bad.
Right? When Jesus is saying that there's a way for us,
All
there's
right, I'm
something that
coming
has
to
to
you
happen
online. Take
in
2.
us. And some of us, and some of
who was
us
just live? 5.
have
5's
gotten
clear.
really good at executing biblical strategies for morality, and we've completely missed the point. We've completely missed the point of what it means to be the kind of people that God has called us to be. We've missed the point to learn
I
how
love
to
that I had
live
to go
as
back to
those
2, and then
who
he stopped
belong
moving
to
around
Him,
and-
those who bear
Now
His
he's
image with
standing there.
integrity, and who carry the influence of His love, and we carry this influence well. The message seems to be in the Sermon on the Mount is, in order to live like this, you have to be like this.
Take 1.
This is why we do My One Word. This is why I believe so deeply in it, because the point isn't just to try to be the kind of person that's better than you were, or to stop doing this or to start doing that. The point is, when you think about, like, I don't want to be angry, or I don't want to be this, or I don't want to be that, instead of thinking about not wanting to be those things, you have to think about what kind of person would you have to become so that those things are unthinkable. That's what Jesus is inviting us into, a kind of being
Ready, 6.
that makes these
When he
these
comes
things
back
come
toward
out of
you or
us
looks back toward you, I'll
quite
take you.
naturally, to turn the other
Taking
cheek,
6.
to go the extra mile, to
1
not
and 6 are live.
execute revenge. These are all things that you're going to see in here that are very difficult to apply in our current world. But this is exactly what Jesus came to do. So here's what He says, and this has bothered me for a long time. I'm going to try to tackle it incompletely, but I think it gives us a nod in where we want to
All right,
go.
I'm going to come back to 1 with
Matthew
you.
chapter 5, verse 17,
One's
Jesus
live
says,
everywhere.
here's what I'm doing. He goes through, you're the
Slide
salt,
is in
you're the
online.
light of the earth, the city on a hill cannot be
You were good to
hidden. And
wait.
He's not talking about a nation, He's talking about His people.
In verse 17, it
He says
says,
this,
and then he doesn't read.
Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. It's in my mind.
I knew I might as well just leave it in.
I have to
'cause
write this down.
If I
have to
pulled
go,
it back
okay,
out,
so
he'd start
Jesus
reading it,
came
and
to do
then I
something.
would have
He
messed
said,
up
I
twice.
have fulfilled. There we go. I have fulfilled something, or the better way is He has filled it full. He's fulfilled something. And then He says, I've not come to abolish the law of the prophets, but I've come to fulfill them. And
Yeah, it is.
then He says this in verse 18. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter nor the least stroke of pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is, what's the word? Finished or accomplished.
Good job, Billy. Getting the board in there
And
and
you begin
leaving
to
room
see
for the
this,
slide
this-
at the same time.
at least I began to see this tension. Because I've always wondered this, like when Jesus fulfilled the laws,
Slide
I mean,
is
you can get
out
tattoos
online.
now. Because it still says you're not supposed to have tattoos. And listen, I'm fine with tattoos, and I can give you a whole reason why. You wear mixed fabrics. There's a lot of things in here that we've tried to concoct and figure out how to get around, but this is where we got to get really honest about these things. Jesus would go on and say this in verse 19. I'm just going to read this, and then we'll get to it. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others to do accordingly will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. That is not something I take lightly. If I tell you to do something or teach instruct you in a way that causes you to do something that minimizes or dismisses something. That's a serious offense. So I'm not trying to play games with this. I want us to really pursue the way of Jesus in this. Whoever practices in teaching these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter into the kingdom of heaven. And we don't have time to get into all that, but I want to focus on what Jesus said. I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And nothing is going to pass. It's going to remain until everything is accomplished. And so what is that? What is lacking that needs to be
Clear online.
filled? That's the question. If Jesus came to, so what is lacking? You get clues in there, right? He says, I've had this happen, right? You tell your kids, be home by 11 or 11:30 or midnight, or depends on how nice of a parent you are, what curfew is.
Just for a second, I'll be right
And
back.
your kids come home, and what you hope is they come
Ready
home and say,
3
Mom and
online.
Dad, I'm home safely. I love you. I appreciate so much your care and concern for me that it is my
Go ahead when
delight
you're ready, Katie.
to obey your command for a curfew. But that's not what happens. They come and go, I'm home.
Take 3.
What is lacking? Right? Do you see what is lacking?
Ready,
What is
5.
lacking in this? I
Take
did
5.
it. What's lacking
3's
is
clear.
something in here
Ready, 6.
that makes us the kind of
Take
people
6.
for whom these things are normal. To love your enemies.
1 and 6 are currently live.
To go the extra mile, to turn the other cheek, to forbid yourself to see people as objects of pleasure or contempt. And it's not just to stop doing them, it's to be the kind of people for whom these things are unthinkable. That's what Jesus
Ready,
is
5.
driving at.
Take 5.
And I think what is
1 and 5 are
lacking
live.
is the effect.
Take 2.
So what he fulfilled was he made a way for something to happen that now needs to be accomplished somewhere. And that somewhere is in us. This is not a better obedience to the Torah. This isn't just about you trying harder not to do the things you shouldn't do or trying harder to do the things that you think you should do. It is a different obedience to follow Jesus, to trust him. Remember last week, Disney, to learn how to navigate life with someone who knows how to form us and to get us along in the world.
You do it now.
We are always operating from trust.
Ready, 1. Take 1.
Everything that you build your life
5,
upon,
you're
you're
still
building it
online.
upon something that you trust, whether it is in your capacity to generate income, your capacity to influence or lead, or you're always operating from trust. This is where our sense of stability always comes from. We trust some philosophy or some system or some way of arranging our lives in order to find what we are looking for or to satisfy some desire. Whether we call that happiness or we call it relief or we call it escape or some other thing, it's always the essence. And what you depend upon for your security will be what you think will make you feel
Stay on the line, I'm
okay
gonna
or
cut
be
here.
okay. And its
I'm just waiting
foundation
for
is
him to pause or
trust.
something
What
for
is
a
it
good
that
moment.
you trust? That's what we have to get to.
All right,
The
1's live
execution
everywhere.
of strategies,
5, you're
even
clear.
religious strategies, are not sufficient. We have been made to live in a reconciled relationship with God, and this is precisely what Jesus came to fulfill. That's the point. Hebrews chapter 7, this is written for us later on. The writer of Hebrews says it this way,
2.
verse 18 and 19 of the chapter 7. The former regulation is set aside because it was weak and useless. It could not make us perfect. You could not kill somebody, but still have wanted to kill them. Right? That's the point. But a better hope is introduced by which we draw near to God. So here's what I want to say. I want to tell you, I want to kind of bring us to a close. His fulfillment, what Jesus came to do,
Yeah, I was
makes
about to do the same.
this reconciliation available to us.
Take 1.
It makes it available. The possibility for you to live as one who is reconciled to
slide.
God
Sorry,
is now available.
Oh.
It has been fulfilled. But now it only gets accomplished.
Should go to 2.
It gets accomplished in us.
Ready, 2.
It is our faith, right, that brings this to a sense of accomplishments. Our faith, when you trust him enough to take a step and act, put into practice what he has said, this is where the accomplishment happens. And the sort of bonus is you find a foundation that can support the weight of the life that you want. But this is an extraordinary thing for us to consider. His fulfillment, like this fulfillment of what God intends to do and has done in Jesus, is accomplished as we learn not only to live out this kind of faith, but to live as his people. And that's where a lot of us get tripped up, because we don't mind executing a strategy. We don't want anyone claiming allegiance over us or authority over us. I'll do what you say, but I'm going to do it my way. And he's like, no. It's the identity piece that he's really forming and forging. He's forming us into a people. This has always been what the commands are always about, that God would have a people with whom he would dwell. He would be their God. We would be his people. We would live together in a reconciled relationship. That's the point. And this gets accomplished as you trust him enough to take a step. So it says in here, you've heard it said, do not commit adultery. But I say to you, if you've already looked at a woman lustfully in your heart, you've already committed adultery with her. And you go, how can that be? And so you learn to trust. It takes a step that you begin to protect your eyes and watch and pay attention. This goes both ways, by the way. This isn't just directed toward men. This is all the things that we do when we trust him enough to bring ourselves under submission and allegiance to him. We begin to find something, experience something, to live as one who belongs to him. Tomorrow, many of you probably know, is Martin Luther King Day. It was commemorated, celebrated his birthday as the third weekend, third Monday in January. Tomorrow is the 15th, which is actually his birthday. And part of my own exercise over the last decade or so is, rather than just to read quotes or post quotes about Martin Luther King.
You're still alive. Sorry, Katie.
I've just taken
he started walking
time
that way,
and
I
read
thought,
his
I don't want to cut right now because.
And I would highly recommend that you do that.
It just seemed weird not to.
Letters from a Birmingham jail.
All right, ready, three.
My favorite one is
take three.
The one he wrote right before he was assassinated. The one he gave, the speech he gave right before he was assassinated. He's been to the mountaintop, and he sees something. And he says in there, he says, longevity is to be desired, but it may no longer be available to me. He said that a day before.
Live everywhere, and I'm with Terry.
He was assassinated. Longevity is a good thing, but it may not be, longevity of life is a good thing, but it may not be available for me. And you sort of enter into the tension. And you feel what he felt when you read his speeches. And there's places you can actually listen to them and watch them. It's powerful to do that. And so I've made it a practice over the years to read minority authors, to understand. And this past year, actually November, December, I found a book by Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman was a civil rights activist. He was a pastor. He was an author. He was born in 1899, lived until 1981. But his book, Jesus and the Disinherited, was rumored to have been in Martin Luther King's coat pocket on many occasions. It was one of the most influential writings that inspired Martin Luther King. When you read the book, you can just begin to really see how it influenced and affected Martin Luther King in profound ways. And what I love is the subtitle of the book. It's called Jesus and the Disinherited, Jesus' Message to the Insecure and Oppressed Men of Today, written in 1949. Jesus' message to the insecure and the oppressed. Now, it is one more comment. When you read it, you'll see some things that are profound when someone is writing from a very oppressed place and has very little hope in a system. And it probably puts you more in line with what was happening in the Sermon on the Mount than anything else. Jesus was speaking to people who knew oppression and marginalization and being left out and having very little hope that anything would be different. And it's good for us to enter into those places and have conversations. And so,
ready, five.
One of the things that struck me is the
2 and 5 are live.
The call and the vision for dignity and worth and identity, for a belonging.
1 and 5 are live.
In Howard Thurman's book. And he outlines these three, he calls them hounds of hell, fear, deception, and hate that always undermine God's vision of rule. And it's if you get a chance to read it, it's brilliant. But it wars against cynicism and futility and this sort of idea that things will never be different, which I think, right, certainly as an African American in that age, it was everywhere. You couldn't get away from it. In our culture today, we sort of been able to build these ways to avoid those things, but cynicism and futility still sort of runs underneath because we're like, why should we give ourselves if it's not going to make any difference anyway? And this is where it depends on the kind of person we become. Here's what Howard Thurman says. I want to read this and kind of unpack it, and then I'll be done. In the absence of all hope, ambition dies. And the very self, the very identity is weakened and corroded. When we lose hope, when we lose the vision that things could be different or better, there's a disintegration. It's degenerative in our
I do believe he said he'll pause
lives.
after this slide before going to the
There
next one.
remains only the elemental will to live and to accept life on the terms that are available. This is just the way things are going to be. And something happens to us that's devastating. Right? Cynicism and futility doesn't define you. It actually undermines you. It robs you. It keeps you from being or becoming the kind of person you've been intended to become. And he goes on, he continues this, and this is what he says: there is a profound measure of resourcefulness in all life. This is written again in 1940s. Resourcefulness in all life, a resourcefulness that is guaranteed by the underlying aliveness of life itself. That somehow in every human being, in every person, there is something there that is longing to be seen and called out. And this is exactly what Jesus is doing. He says, you have been created to belong. The question that Howard Thurman is answering is, is there any help in this circumstance that the way of Jesus provides? And his answer is yes. And he says this because our belonging to God and our depth of character, or the depth of character that comes from one who belongs to God, that's what provides our sense of security and stability that supersedes the chaos of the way we experience the world. That who you become, who you are, has the capacity to supersede the chaos, the circumstances of the world. This is exactly what Jesus said when it says, whoever hears my words and puts them into practice,
Katie, will you pull out all the way
builds their
again?
life on
We're
a
gonna
rock
do-
that is
we're gonna
not
get one more of those shots in here before we're
or
done.
undermined by the chaos of this world. We are ushered in to a new way to live out our faith, of
Go ahead and
course,
start moving when you're ready.
but to live as
Ready,
those
3,
who belong to
take
God. We
3.
are ushered into a new way of navigating
1
the
and 3
world.
are both live.
A way that is free from cynicism and fear and withholding and calculating and protecting, free from despair.
Ready, 5 online.
I tried to watch the news this week.
Take
I
5.
tried hard to see what was going on. It's like, oh my
3's clear.
gosh.
You can push back in.
We are being sold despair and fear. How do we navigate the world? Right? How do we learn how
Ready,
to do
6
this?
online.
This is what Jesus is inviting
Take
us
6.
into, to become the kind of people
1 and 6
for
are
whom
live.
these things are true. We're going to talk about the what in the next couple of weeks. But I want for you to imagine that you can navigate this
Coming
world
to 1
faithfully
online. Take 1.
and full of hope.
6 is clear.
That no matter what is happening around us, what's going on around us, we have a foundation that can support the weight of this. Here's what I want you to understand.
Ready, 2. Take 2.
So much of our culture is how. It is not so much how we navigate the world, but rather the kind of people that we are as we navigate the world. Did you hear that? It's not how you get around. It's who you are as you do. Again, this is why we use my one word, because it's your to-be list versus your to-do list. It's all those things. I think that our identity, who we believe ourselves to be, And I don't mean that in like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you can do it. I mean like who Jesus has made us to be, what he's fulfilled in us. That this identity contributes more to how we will navigate the world, far more than our skill at navigating it does. So here's what I want to ask you for your homework today. What do you depend on for your stability? And don't just go, Jesus. Because we all depend on finances. We all depend on other people. We all depend. There's a lot of factors in this. I'm not asking you to deny those things. I'm asking you to say, Lord, remember our posture is, Lord, can you help us see something in a way that changes the way we see everything else? There's nothing wrong with those things. There's nothing wrong with finding comfort in those things. But I want us to be honest about where we're driving and deriving these things from. And the second question is, what is the condition of the foundation that you trust? What's the condition of it? Can it support the weight of what you feel? Right? You have heard it said, but Jesus comes along and he says, trust me and follow me and become. That you might live out this way of life really, but more important, that you will learn to live as those who belong, those who have been redeemed, and those who are being renewed. That's what we're after. And this happens as we learn, as it's accomplished, as we trust
Slides out online.
To take a step. Whoever hears my words and puts them into practice, you will have a foundation that can support the weight of your life. That's the promise. We're going to learn how to do that next couple weeks. Sound good? Father, thank you.
Ready? 5.
That's a great promise.
Actually, I'm going to wait because you just took
that
it.
we want.
Let's get ready for Laura Lynn.
So I ask that you would
and
really
people
awaken
walking
that in
by,
us
so I'm
to
glad I
want
didn't
that.
take it.
Because what's required in that is
All right, so
very
campuses are now getting your cut,
So I ask you to help us.
and they're going to
help us
dissolve away when he
process,
says
to
amen.
do that with
so
one another.
we should try not to take a cut right there.
Help us
if
to
we can help
process
it.
with you.
Right after he says
And Lord,
amen.
that more than
I mean,
anything,
you could wait a couple seconds and cut,
that
but
we
I
would
don't want to miss
become
her. You could go to 3
kind
before
of
he's done
people
praying.
who
Might
bear
be
your
weird for them
image
to see her. I don't know.
with integrity
For future.
and who
North
carry
Point used
well
to
the
go black.
influence of your love. Would you
during
form
prayer.
us into
So that might be
that
something
kind
I
of
thought
people?
their campuses did, yeah.
And
Because
in
everybody's
doing
closing their
so,
eyes
we
and praying.
find
Oh,
Anyway.
Just
so
to make
they
up
could do that.
rest
Oh,
in
okay.
rock.
Not yet.
And I
not
ask
us.
all
yeah,
this.
Just
yeah,
something we talk about
Jesus
this week.
is
I thought you
King.
meant us, but that makes
Amen.
more sense.
Thank you guys so much. Hey, Laura Lynn.
Go ahead,
Amen.
Terry.
Hey, surprise.
Surprise.
Sorry, I threw us
Thank
out
you
there.
so much.
Thank
I
you.
am very
Thank you.
excited for this series over the next few weeks. And I'm actually thinking, as you're talking about, there's some in this room, or maybe if you're watching online even, who
kinda
you're
solved
new
that
to
for us 'cause
church,
he immediately
and
turned and looked at
this
her
is
and
a
said her
whole new
name,
world
so-
for you.
Yeah.
We're new
yeah.
to faith, new to Christianity, new to
And they'll just
God,
have to deal with it
and
together.
or maybe you've been
Right.
here for a little while and you're still wondering what is all of this.
I'm going to come off
about.
headset so I
And,
can get the prayer cues
we
in.
want to come alongside you. We
You've
want
got it from here?
to gather together with several of you who are asking those same questions. And so we have a class called Starting Point. It is a 9-week commitment. It's on Sunday mornings, but really what it is you're gathered around the table with other people who are asking the same questions that you're asking. We want to talk about what this is. What does it mean? What does it mean to find stability in God? But really at the basics, the basic level. So so if you're interested in that, or any other group, a connect group, a care group, any of those types of things, please come talk to us. We are out in the Connect Center. We're in the hallway. We would love to answer your questions, to help you take your next step. We will also have our care team down front to offer some prayer if we can care for you in that way. So thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a great week.
Yep.
We'll see
Thank
you next week.
Thanks. Bye. Thank y'all. Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Communication
So,
slide here.
shift again.
Beautiful. Y'all are awesome. That was a great gathering.